what got you started in this whole world? Because you do everything, man. You're like an entrepreneur, really.
For the most part, I would say so, yeah.
You've got a lot going on. You dabbled in graph and shit. You're really fucking good. I've seen your videos. But you do photography. You can make a broken window look artistic. Like, people can't just take a picture of something flat and make it look dope. You know what I'm saying? So your photography is impeccable. And then I've seen videos you've produced of other artists like that.
Yard work was
Yard work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw that one. And then I saw another one where Acro was just bombing in the streets with a marker and shit. And I'm like, and then at the end I always saw Elementary. And I know SERRINGE. I know that name. I'm like, Jersey City, like Jersey niggas did this shit. Made me very happy, you know what I'm saying? Like, sure. And I think they were Art Primo videos or something. Art Primo in conjunction with Elementary and shit like that.
Yeah.
So, why Elementary? It's just a weird name.
All right, so Elementary, when I started in 2009, and I started with a blog, basically. And the blog was just a way for me to, like, post my own artwork. Anything that I was working on creatively, I would post it on there so that, my family and friends could be like, oh shit, let's see what he put up. Is he working on anything new? People would constantly ask me this shit. And at the time, I had a career job, and I was just really heavily focused on making bread. I just got married. I'm like, I just want to buckle down, and I got involved in, like, field service work, installing big ass monitors and computers in, like, stadiums and shit like that, and it was dope. It was a dope gig. Yeah. One day I walk into work, I get laid off. And this is during the whole fucking economic crash and all that bullshit. And, everyone was using that as a way to kind of let people go and, shit like that. So,
what the housing market got to do with my job?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got let go of, and once that happened, I already had started the blog, and it was getting a little popularity, I was like, yo, 50 people was on here last night, 58 people, like thinking it was a big deal,
No doubt, better than zero.
All right, no doubt.
Yeah.
But that led me to, that was like the best thing that ever happened to me, as far as like being laid off, because when I started looking for work in the same field, people were offering me half the money. You're lucky we're offering you a job. And I'm like, yo, man, fuck you. Wow, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And one day I just came home and told wifey, I'm like, yo, I'm not going back to work. I'm just going to pursue art and try to make something out of nothing, Wow. And when you're married, that's not easy to do.
That didn't bode over well.
What? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got this hunch, and so what I caught on to, I'm a research nerd. I'm always researching and trying to learn things, and what I learned at the time was that a lot of the videos that were inspiring me weren't coming from home base, you know what I'm saying? It was some dude in California, some dude overseas, and I'm like, well, why are my homies doing this? I know plenty of ill motherfuckers, like my whole life. I'm like, why aren't these cats doing this shit, you know? So I said, let me flip this blog shit, and what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna only tell my story, but I'm gonna tell all my homies' stories too, like let people know what these cats are up to too, So in my earlier days, what I did was I would always miss art shows. To this day, I still miss them. Like, yo, there's this ill art show coming on March whatever the fuck, right? And March 26th, and then on March 20 whatever the fuck, I'll be like, I missed the art show, Yeah. So when I started doing that, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start making experience photos and stories of it. So I would go to an art show, take pictures of it, tell people how I felt about the show and shit like that, and yo, business cards. I was just hustling business cards to everybody. Just like I go to an art show, if there was 150 people in there, 150 people got my business card. Like, yo, check me out. And I was just pumping that shit. And then all of a sudden it was like, yo, I got an art show coming up on this day. You want to come by? Fuck yeah, And I started going to different art shows, Okay. And mind you, before any of this, I was already making music. I was already rapping. I used to rhyme and shit and make beats, and I was already doing creative shit. I always did art or some form of graffiti. I was big on characters. Till this day, my shit is characters. But letters was not something that really that I was good at, you know. I was all right at it, but people would be like, yo, that's dope. But I'm like, nah, it's not as dope as this motherfucker that I love, you know?
You know what's capable, what can be done. Yeah.
So when I started doing the videos, the photos, that's what came to mind. I always loved photography, you know. A lot of people don't know, but like by the time I was like 11, 12 years old, I was already making short films on VHS tapes, and me and my brother and my sisters and all my friends, we were making actual like films, like
wow,
yeah, with stories and shit. We have locations and shit like that, like actually shoot this stuff.
Wow, dude.
Sad story that throughout time we lost all that stuff, and but this is what began to
you had a passion for it.
Yeah, where I'm like, yo, you know, like every time we do something, we lose it. We don't take care of it. We, you know, and even graffiti. Like when people are like, yo, do you remember like your first tags and all this? So I should have took pictures of that shit, but I was a little kid, you know.
Yeah.
So when I started doing all this stuff is going through my head, like things that I love, like how can I make elementary like that? But before you asked me how did I come up with the name,
yes,
this is what happened. So I had the blog, and I was like, I need to name it something, and I don't know why those words were bouncing around in my head, but I said to my wife over the phone while I was at work before I got laid off. I said to her, she's like, what are you going to call it? I said, I can call it anything. I'll just call it elementary, and that'll be that. It'll become something, right? And when I first wrote it, it was just the word elementary, like elementary, my dear kind of deal.
Oh, okay.
And then...
wow, I never even thought about that. That's dope.
And then I kind of just said, you know what, now let me just switch it, have it still mean elementary, but in 2 words, elementary.
Mm-hmm.
And then that developed, you know, ping-ponging in my brain with it back and forth. I came up with the concept of like, I planted a seed, you know. I'm planting this idea. And eventually, you know, I'm going to take care of it. You know, I'm going to make sure it gets sunlight. I'm going to water this motherfucker. And eventually it's going to, nurture it. Eventually it's going to grow roots and start, you know, growing a tree, you know. Yeah. And eventually that tree will create a canopy. And me and all my friends can get under this canopy and get out of the shitty weather that we were all experiencing as artists. And then from there, it was like, and eventually this tree will develop fruit, and then we'll all eat from this fruit.
Wow.
And that's what elementary is, you know. It's like this, it became like this deeper meaning of like, you know, I'm creating a cover for us to get out of this nasty weather that we all go through as artists.
Yeah.
And from there, once I came up with that idea, that's when things started to really move along.
Yeah.
Now it's like, all right, cool, you know, I got this really ill concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I would explain it to people, because people always would be like, yo, what's elementary? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then I would explain it, and they'd be like, yo, like, that's dope, you know?
Clearly, yeah.
And, you know, from there, all the other ideas of elementary, like, you know, the Earthling series. I had this other concept that I had going on for a while called Sound Soil. Eventually that turned into me and my friends, like, product photography team, which I'm working on now.
Okay.
But that idea, too, you know, Sound Soil was based in music and audio. But the meaning of Sound Soil is, like, perfect dirt for you to grow grow seeds in, you know, for you to cultivate shit.
You can't just plant shit in any dirt.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, another idea that came from elementary is, like, now it's about the actual foundation, the sound soil and shit. That's
crazy.
So yeah, that's pretty much what elementary meant, you know.
And this started back around 2008.
2000, the end of 2009 is when it used to be called Elementary by Syringe, and then eventually I was like, that's whack. I'm just gonna call it elementary. Yeah. I was just like, or just giving myself credit when I wanted it to become a brand and more of like an entity, and throwing your name in there is kind of like, now it's back to being about you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, let me just take
the
syringe
part
and let it be itself. Yeah. And then,
that was smart.
And then, so yeah, I started taking pictures. I bought some little rinky-dink camera, and it started with that, just, you know, photos, and I was doing interviews and shit like that. And then my wife is a food stylist, or was attempting to become a food stylist, and we started doing videos of, we came up with the idea of, let's make videos of you cooking and shit, you know, just to help you out, build a portfolio, following and shit. And then she started her own blog. So I was doing photos, she was in need of video. I've always loved video, but in my brain, when she said, I was like, well, you want photo and I mean, I want photo and you want video. what am I gonna go out and buy? Am I gonna go buy a video camera and a photography camera? And this is where I say, like, I was a little bit ahead of a lot of people around here. And so in researching videos that I love, what I did one day, and I highly recommend everyone do, sidetrack real quick, write shit down. I went to a motivational speaker when I started elementary, because I was down, you know. I was in a bad place, you know. I was making good money. Me and my wife were all set. I lost my job. I couldn't get back to my pay. And at the same time, here I am saying, well, I'm going to invest money that I have stacked up into this concept and idea, and every penny that I spent was a nail biter. I'm like, all right, well, how am I going to recoup this?
Word.
You know what I'm saying?
This is not proven yet. This
correct.
Is not, yeah.
This is just the idea.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how do I just take these risks with my wife being there, you know? It's harder to do it that way, you know. I didn't have a kid at the time, so I'm like, well, we don't have a kid yet. No, you know, I have a little boy now. He's 6.5 months.
Wow,
but,
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So, but back then, it was like, now is the time. If we're going to take risks, do it now.
Yeah.
My wife still had her job. I jumped on her insurance. And, you know, at first she was real skeptical about a lot of the things that I was coming up with. But good wife, she's like, go. I got you. You do it. Just go ahead and do it.
Well, she must know you have talent because she believed in your dream.
Well, I mean, she met me as a talented person. You know, I was playing in bands, you know, playing bass in bands, writing my own music. I was doing a bunch of shit. I've always done that. You know what I mean? I've always, 6 years old, I started drawing. I never stopped. Back to the tools that we needed.
Yeah, you did research to find best camera. You were around there.
So I started researching cameras, and then I was like, fuck this. If I'm going to buy something that does photo and video, I'm going to do both myself. What are these videos looking like in the graffiti world? And that was my main thing, right? I'm like, you know, you watch graffiti videos, and it's like, you really don't give a fuck about what it's shot on. You just want to see this dude doing it, you know? So it's like, you watch these videos that look real shitty, recorded on a phone or some bullshit camera, and I'm like, I don't want that. You know what I mean? I'm like, we already see that, you know? How do I make it better? You know, how do I make it stick out? So I forget the videos that I stumbled upon, but there was like 3 or 4 videos that I saw that I'm like, damn, this video looks fucking incredible. Like, what the fuck did they shoot this on? And through YouTube, I found this one dude, and I hit that dude up, and I'm like, yo, look, man, I'm trying to do something similar out here in the East Coast. He was from the West Coast.
Okay.
And I'm like, yo, what are you shooting on? Like, please. Like, I don't like asking people, like, what paintbrush you use.
Yeah. What's your secrets?
I don't like doing that, but this stumped me, you know what I mean? I'm like, why does this guy's video look so fucking good, you know? And he was like, yo, I'm shooting that shit on a Canon Rebel T2i. That was the model. And he's like, yo, they just came out. You should go grab one. Looked into it. I think the camera with the lens was like, I don't know, $900,000 or something at the time.
Wow.
So I'm like, yo, infinite thank you. Forever. You know, that dude rings out for forever. And he was just some dude. He didn't really do graph videos. He just got hired to do it. Wow. And that was it. I researched it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the camera. And I researched it so much that the day I got it, I opened it up, I knew how to use it. Wow. Like, that's how much I researched this thing.
You don't fuck around.
Nah.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And then that, and I remember when I started putting out these videos, how people would be like, yo, your videos look fucking crazy. Why? And I'm like, yo, I just shoot it on this thing, you know? And, yo, I can't tell you how many people when I got that camera will come back and be like, yo, how come my shit still don't look like your video? And I'm like, you gotta read, yo, this is not a toy, this is a big deal. You gotta learn this tool.
Yes.
And that's what, you know, I dove face first into that shit, you know, editing, you know, marketing, you know, how to promote these videos and blah, 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 blah.
Now, you had a history with computers, like
for the most part, I went to school back in the certification days. I got certified as what they called a network technician.
Okay.
So you know how to set up networks, how to break them down and shit like that. So I learned the basics of computers, to be honest with you, because I didn't grow up in a time where there was computers. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to get left behind, and I felt like that was going to lead me to a career, and it did for a while, you know. And then when they let me go, by that time, you know, I'd already been doing fucking, you know, Fenway Park, all the TVs and shit in there. I knew how to use my shit. So I started on PC, then I went to Mac and blah, 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 blah. But overall,
Mac?
Yeah, I use both still.
Oh,
I still use PC and Mac. PC I do a lot of audio work on because have more stuff for it on PC. Early on, I used Sony Vegas Pro on PC, and that became like my mainstay for a long time. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I stuck it out on that program. I still own it. I still do audio work on it. You know, it's a full video and audio software.
My son used to have it and it froze on him a lot. He used to have problems.
It's probably the computer, bro.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's probably the processor speed and shit like that.
Yeah.
But the reason, going back, the reason the whole elementary videos came about was because backstory, when I was about 14, I was making short films and all that stuff. The kid that I was making them with, my boy Mike, he became an actual filmmaker. He went to school. He was like deep, like $30-something thousand invested into video and photography. Another Jersey City head.
Okay.
And me and him didn't see each other for years, and time went by. I was married. We were living close to each other, and he hit me up one day, and he's like, "Yo, I'm kind of in between projects. You know, is there something that you want to shoot?" And I'm like, "Yo, why don't we do what we used to say we were gonna do when we were little kids, when we were like 14, that we were gonna make a graffiti documentary." I'm like, I know all these writers now, you know, people have now developed into like actual motherfuckers, you know, and that included rhyming and all that shit.
Yeah, artists that are sought after for
Yeah.
different aspects of what they do.
Yeah. So I'm like, I think we could put one together quickly, you know, and that's what set me off, you know. And we were about 85-90% done with that project, and dude fell out from under me, you know. He just stopped taking my calls. I don't know what happened. Till this day, I really don't know. I love that dude. I don't got nothing bad to say about him.
Yeah.
People go through shit.
Okay.
But I didn't see him for like a year.
Okay.
And I'm like, yo, bro, like, you haven't answered me in like a year. All these people's time were invested into this, and you know, then this was in right at the beginning of 2010. And I'm like, yo, I got all these people on board, you know, Snow, TD, you know, Loser, Mustard, all them dudes, you know. So I'm like, you're kind of not just leaving me hanging. You're leaving all these dudes that put their back into these murals. You know, some of these cats were doing this shit for 2 days straight.
Word.
You know, I think TD and Snow painted for like 18 hours in total.
Their time, their pain.
Yeah. And I'm like, nobody's getting paid, dude.
Word.
I'm like, you know,
this
was
all
foul,
on my
bro.
arm. Yeah.
And he went on to explain to me, like, you know, he's like, I've never not finished a project. So if something like this is happening, I'm going through some shit.
Yeah.
And then he said something about a child or something like that. And once he said that, I was like, yo, stop. Don't even explain anymore.
Word.
Just leave it alone. Like, it's all love. One day.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is say that you can't because,
So it was just like, you know, and he was my friend before anything, so.
That's right.
But when that happened, I was like, fuck. Like, how do I tell these cats, you know? These cats were like, yo, I was doing interviews. I was doing college radio shows, hyping this thing
promoting
up.
It?
Promoting the fuck out of it.
Oh.
So now I look like a pendejo, like a liar. I'm like, I can't let this ride. So
no doubt.
That's what, when me and my wife were talking about getting a camera, that was like in the back of my brain. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can make up for it by reaching out to those people and saying, let's make our own shit happen.
Oh, so you never used that footage from the first time?
No, never. We did a 20-minute, like a feeler during a Jersey City artist tour in 2010. And we did it at some little bar on North Avenue, and you know, 100 or so people showed up, and it was just to get feedback.
Yeah.
And I got really good feedback, you know, and the bar was popping off. The owner of the bar was like, yo, we never seen so many people.
Well,
in
you
here,
got to do this every week, yeah.
This is really creative, you know.
Yeah.
We set up we set up a screen with a projector in the back. It was nice and warm out that day, and you know, people were outside having drinks, watching the first 20 minutes of our documentary, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And then this whole shit fucking happened.
Never came to fruition. Yeah.
Never came to fruition.
But it pushed you to do.
Oh yeah, I don't like letting people down. That's not my shit. So when my wife said all this, I'm like, you know what? Let's just get a camera. This is the camera we're gonna get. This is how much money it's gonna cost. I'm gonna have to get an editing station, a faster computer. So the investment wound up going from like the idea of like $1,100-$1,200 to more like $2,600 first drop without the software. So basically, yeah. So once that happened, I did a couple of little bullshit videos to kind of make sure I knew what I was doing.
Okay.
And then from there, I started with the idea of shooting people, like painting. And in doing research, you know, if you watch a lot of graffiti videos, a lot of the time it's, you know, fuck the cops, yo, you know, fuck the pigs, you know, it's very negative, you know?
Yeah.
And the way I saw graffiti was, it was more innocent. That's the best way I could put it. I saw it as, why do people do it, you know? What made people go out and write their name on shit, you know, and develop shit the way they did? Like, what's the I don't know, what's the story behind that?
Word.
We all know the story of the root of it, right? But as individuals, everyone has their own story, right?
Yeah.
And that shit was fascinating to me, yo, because every time I met a writer, I would say, damn, you are exactly what you put on the wall, right? That was my first, like, observation, you know? You meet someone like Then, and Then is his pieces. He's very quick. He's you know, he's a witty motherfucker. He drops. He's just a smart, clean dude. You know, like the way he thinks is very positive. And if you look at his pieces, they're always colorful. They're just as slick as my man is. You know, you know. Distort was a big one. You know,
that's a good analogy.
Yeah. Distort was this kid that I met as, yo, that dude eats, sleeps, and breathes art, you know? And if you talk to the guy, you know, he's deep in a lot of shit, you know? And his art would reflect it, you know? I would look and think I was looking at something that I thought I knew the meaning of, and then he'd be like, yo, but the reason I put this here is because this, that, and the third, and then you're like, oh, shit, like, and he would blow your mind. So I felt like I wanted to make the videos those vibes, those good vibes that I was getting, because I was blessed, man, because graffiti has a very ugly side, you know, and a lot of the people that I was meeting, not saying that they don't have ugly sides, but, you know, it was more straightforward in a artistic way, you know, and the universe made it like that for me. My experience with graffiti was that, you know, like, really know, you know, learn from that dude, you know, he's fucking knowledge nonstop and history. I
call him
and
a
shit.
historian.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the great historians.
So when I started shooting these videos, that was the concept behind elementary. So thinking elementary school, learning something, and my approach was, I'm gonna make graffiti videos that even your grandmother could appreciate. You know what I mean? That people, all sorts of people, you can watch it with your kids, you know, there's no cursing and shit like that. It's more music and a vibe, you know?
Yeah.
And you can show people the art itself, you know, and the process of it. So I started doing those videos. But right away, what I picked up on was, you know, pieces cost money, you know, and nobody was getting paid, including me. So I'm like, but this artist just showed up at my house or at whatever location we were shooting at and easily used about $150, $200 in colors. So I'm like, that's not cool, you know, that these dudes are doing this every time I shoot a video. They're investing into my video now, even though it's something that promotes us all.
Yeah.
The objective is like not coming out of pocket.
Word.
And that's where my struggle began, where some artists may not have the money that week to shoot and didn't have all the things they needed or wanted or whatever it was. So early on, I came up with the idea of like, let me collaborate with people. Let me build with brands. And it was early on where this was accessible, you know. And that's what I started to do. I started to reach out to companies and be like, what does it take for me to work with you? You know, I'll help you promote your brand. You know, we'll work on things together. And everybody shot me down, just one after the other, just shooting me down. And, well, you know, we're only working with this. We're not doing that at the moment, blah, 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 blah. So I started to drop money and say, fuck it, I'll build my own arsenal of paint. So I would go out and buy, like, you know, $25 worth of paint, $50 worth of paint, and just stockpile this shit. And then, you know, eventually somebody would show up and be like, yo, I don't have this shade of blue. Yo, I got it. Boom, here you go. Use this shit, you know. Then I started to take on the weight of what these guys are going through to paint.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Yo, I'm going to go broke doing this shit. My wife's going to kill me. So I started researching new brands. I'm like, well, what's new? Maybe I can get in with a new company, you know? Start out with the underdog paints and shit like that, or something that's not as popular. And I reached out to Belton Molotov, and that was the first brand that everybody was like, they're gonna say no, and they did. They were like, nah, we're not doing that. So then what I did was I was like, you know what? Well, let me show you where I'm going with this. Let me show you how passionate I am about it. And I would compile these emails, and I would put my videos on there and be like, yo, look, this is your brand being used. Like, this is promo right here for you right now.
Right.
Like, I'm not asking you to send me 1 million cans of spray paint. Throw me a fucking bone. Let me show you what I could do. Belton Molotov took that in a positive light, thank God, and responded and said, hey, listen, we're working on a budget paint. Smaller brand. We just started distributing in the U.S. about 2 weeks. I'm like, what? And that was Flame.
Oh.
So I was like, all right, cool. So how do we do this? You know, how do I get the paint from Germany to Jersey?
Yeah.
And we'll get back to you. And then they got back to me. They introduced me to Art Primo. This is going to be our distributor. And, you know, maybe we could work it out with them. When we send them products for sale, we'll send your shit there and then have them send it to you.
That's crazy.
And I was like, dope. All right, let's do that. So I got on a phone call with them. They have been homies, you know, homies that from another state that I don't really know personally like that, you know. I met my contact in New York. She came out, flew out. We met up for a day. We shot the shit. She kind of felt me out. And right away, I like putting things on the table. I'm not a graffiti writer. That's what I say to people. I'm an artist, you know what I mean? I'm a student. I'm always going to be that way. I'm never going to be the guy that says I'm a master at anything, you know. And my mentality is always, there's always room to get better.
Yep.
There's always room to learn, you know. And since I didn't have that guerrilla style schooling of going out there, and don't get me wrong, I had my knucklehead years. I did catch tags and write on shit, but never to the level that my heroes or the people that I looked up to were doing it.
Yeah.
So I felt I never earned those stripes. So as an artist, you know, early on, we'll find abandoned spots, go with a couple homies, try shit out using Rust-Oleum, Krylon, 90s, you know, and drip, fucking, you know, hot ass mess, like that shit is ugly, I don't want no one to ever see this thing, shit like that. But I always loved it, you know what I mean? I always just felt like it was something that I was gonna do eventually. When I was about 14, actually about 12, my mother got sick with kidney failure. My mom, when I was a little kid, she believed in me as an artist. Like from day one, from 6 years old, she fed me art tools, you know, like try this, try that. You know, she would buy me watercolors and drawing books and whatever the fuck that revolved around art. She'd be like, try this. And because of her, I think that's why I've always been like, all right, well, I like music, why not try and make music? Like, all you could do in life is try shit.
Word.
And to find out what you love. And all these things basically became what we know as elementary. It's like you're a fucking student, you know, I'm gonna tell stories about people that
resonate with the culture.
Yeah, or just that I see as like people that need to be known about, right? And you know, Disto, then, you know, Mustard. Those were the three dudes that when I met them, I just felt connected to them dudes, you know. I wanted to help them as much as possible. I wanted to help myself, you know, get better at videos, and they were like my favorite subjects, you know. So I focused on them while I was doing all this other shit. And telling their stories and all that. I'm losing the train of thought. And your battery's about to die.
For real?
It's on 20.
Está bien. All right, so then let me just get some context questions. When you were coming up, who were your influences, if any, in graffiti? It could be outside graffiti. It could be, you know, real oil painting artists, whatever. Who, say three influences coming up.
3 influences coming up. Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay.
I'll say it, TD. Edgar Allan Poe, TD, Run DMC.
Okay. That is a well-rounded answer. Okay. That is a well-rounded answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Did you have any mentors coming up?
Mentors? Not really. During the skateboard days, you know, I have an older brother, so I always looked up to him. He rapped, you know, he did graffiti, he caught tags and shit. He used to write Chazar back in the day. He stopped writing Chazar out of respect for Czar out of Patterson, because he discovered that he was a writer and writing Czar. He's like, I don't know, stop writing. Yeah. And it wasn't really his bag, but he was actually a great artist.
Okay.
He just let it go really early on. And, you know, all my friends growing up, man, you know, we were part of a time where there's a group in Jersey City called PM Dawn. And when I was a kid, I watched them go from, you know, living a regular life to becoming stars and being on MTV and shit. And they made it real that you can get
it
somewhere.
Is possible.
Yeah, it is possible. So I would say they were a huge inspiration to me. Not necessarily mentors, but without knowing they were my mentors, you know, like I was around them. My brother was around them. My brother was in a couple, maybe like a couple videos that they did and shit like that.
And in a roundabout way, their success showed you that it was tangible, that you could be successful, you could make it, you could follow your dream and eventually make it.
Yeah.
Whatever that might be.
And even my boy Face too, he used to write graffiti, and he introduced me to like subway art and all that stuff, you know. He was the one that was like, yo, check out this book, you know, and it was dope. He was definitely an inspiration growing up, you know.
Okay. Mentors, inspiration.
I heard that a lot, you know, from other filmmakers, like, oh, your graffiti videos had like an emotion to it or a vibe to them. So it's more based in how I feel, you know, and I feel like as an artist, for me, my problem has always been that I can't just focus on one thing, because I wake up feeling different every day. So I try, sometimes it's like, let's try something completely out of the ordinary. With photography, it's how I wake up feeling, or how I go to bed, you know. With art, it's kind of something needs to come out. I never know what it is, you know. I just start kind of doing shit, and like, oh, that turns into that, and whatever the case may be. And with video, it's more of how do I tell this story? How do I not only tell the story, but how do I show you how it felt to be there? You know what I mean? Like, what was the vibe of that day? And if you watched some of the videos, the music is kind of based on how I felt being in that scenario. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much it.
Okay. All right. So I asked this to everybody. I say everybody, but I've interviewed 2 people. CF, Tin Man, you know, and Dantique for Billy Man Rebellion, and The Inimitable Snow. You are number 3, lucky number 3. So I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked them. If you had any advice to anybody coming up that wants to pursue an artistic lifestyle, you know, share your thoughts on that.
As far as pursuing anything in life, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to everything, right? In order for you to get from point A to point Z, you have to lock down what the steps are to get there. So one of the things that I learned I went to one motivational speaker in my life because I needed it, and he gave me the secret. And the secret is when you're pursuing something that you love or something that you're passionate about, a lot of times there's a lot of disappointments, right? And what we don't do as artists a lot of times is we don't celebrate the moments where we take those steps every step of the way. So the best way I can put it is, and I'll say this to you because I think you can benefit from it, is what I do is I write everything down. writing things down is the most powerful thing you could do in your life. If you want to make videos, right, and you don't have anything to make videos, right, you got to make the list, right? The list is I need a camera, I need lenses, I need a tripod, I need a computer, I need a editing software, I need to learn this editing software, I need to produce videos, how do I market these videos? There's just so many things that are in between you and the end result, right? And it's up to you to recognize that every time you bought a new camera, celebrate, enjoy that moment. This is a pivotal moment in me trying to reach my goal. And writing it down allows you to say, did it, boom. There's a sense of satisfaction in that for me. And that's what makes me go so hard at shit. Because I'm like, oh, I'm getting there. And once I got everything, boom, I'm set. Now a whole new list begins.
Yeah.
And that's going to be like that probably for the rest of your life. But there's been times in my life where I'm like, why didn't I think to record this? Or why didn't I think to... It's because I didn't write it down. I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't set it in my schedule of shit that I need to do, you know? And I'll tell you, hand to God, I stopped writing shit down maybe 3 years ago. And because of that, I lost track of shit. I had like a health issue that came into play that kept me from doing things that were physical.
Yeah.
Recording, painting, all this stuff is physical. And it put me on my ass for like 7 months. I was pretty much just like, you know, from the bed to the living room, back to the bed. And, you know, I started feeling depressed and sick, you know what I mean? And I stopped writing stuff down. And
it definitely sidetracked you a bit.
It fucked me up. That fucked me up. Like, it was like bad, you know? Now I'm getting back to
and
that
you would
whole...
think it's something so simple, but it makes sense because when you were going down the little checklist of, oh, you want to do this, so you're gonna need a camera. If you were listing it and it feels overwhelming, it's like, oh my God, that's a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But if you have it written down, like you said, when you conquer one, it just gets smaller and smaller. You're honing it to get into that finish line, you know. Yeah.
And that goes for everything, any goal you have, you know. So if you go to my workstation at home, you see a little stack of little notebooks. Because there's shit in there that I haven't finished that I wrote down fucking 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
And every once in a while, you got to go back and be like, oh, I forgot, I got to do that. Like, but it starts making you scratch off, like, I did that, you know? Like, when I was working with artists, I recommend you do this too. And that goes for anything. Who do you want to interview? You know, why do you want to interview them? Write all that shit down. Because when you start taking that list off, then you're like, I'm really getting somewhere. Now I'm working with the people that I want. And then just, you know, then there was like levels to shit. Then it was like, what if you think I could get this motherfucker? You know, like Shepard Ferry was one of my big ones. That fell on my lap because I was doing all this shit. Lisa Project out in New York reached out to me and was like, yo, you want to do videos for us? And I was like, yeah, cool. I started shooting them, and then one day they hit me up like, yo, we got one coming up on this day, blah, blah, blah. We're going to be shooting Shepard Ferry.
What?
And I was like, what? Okay, cool. So I got to spend 4 days with dude, you know?
So dope.
That was an ill experience. And he gave me 11 prints, like as a gift. Like, yo, roll them shits up in a tube. I was like, here you go, my man.
Yeah,
I was like, yo, mad chill, you know? Shit like that, you know? And that's how it all kind of just started developing. And I mean, I shot mad people that I really, you know, admired or thought was like a fucking G at it, you know? And you know, another thing is, if you're gonna be around graffiti writers, man, it's like, and you're trying to paint, you know, you owe it to yourself to observe, you know, just sit there and look at these motherfuckers and what they do, you know, because some of that shit is magical. I can't even stress that enough.
Analyze, pick up the mannerisms, and, you know, all that shit.
Movements and you know, and just shit that I'm like, what? Because there was times that I would shoot people and I'm like, that shit right there is supernatural. You know what I'm saying? Like, how the fuck did you just do that? I've seen cats do little tiny lines, you know, like look like you did it with like a fucking marker. Like, how the fuck did you just, you know, that shit. And for me, on some graffiti shit, when I started observing people, my graffiti, I would say, well, the technical part of it just went from like number 4 to like 10. Just understanding and observing these dudes, I was able to, I was blessed, man. because I always loved graffiti, and there was things about it that I ain't really know enough piecing motherfuckers to understand. So when I watch some of these dudes, I'd be like, oh my god, that just answered a lifelong question right there in 2 seconds, you know. So I took it in like that, man. It was an ill experience, and it's still an ill experience, you know. Like I just shot Forsaken.
He's the
downtown.
man. He's so cool.
Yeah, that's a cool ass dude.
I met him the first time I met him. He was with his son G.
Oh yeah.
And he was wants to be like dad, so he picked up spray paint. So we were on the corner, like on the side, and he was spray painting rocks. I guess he told me all day earlier that day he was just spray painting them like haphazardly, but he was actually trying to let a G. Yeah. So I was like, yo, do the G. You're like, you bugging. Yo, so fucking cool, man. Like, every time I see Forsaken, I think he remembers that day that we was chilling under
he's a
that.
great dude. That's a
and
cool
he's
ass
super mega fly.
Yeah.
Super mega fly,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Shows nothing but love. So to reiterate the last question of what would you tell a young kid trying to come up in this world, you would say write things down.
Write down your goals.
So that you can follow through on them better.
Yeah, and you know, there is rules, but sometimes, you know, you got to step out of that, you know, and just try shit, you know. Like I said, you know, some people will tell you, well, you got to learn this, you got to learn this way, you got to do that. It's like, yo, you got to trust your instincts, you know. If you feel you can learn something on your own, or whatever the case may be, or you didn't learn every lesson about graffiti, that doesn't mean you shouldn't paint, you know. Like, I think we're way beyond the starting point of graffiti to where it's like the shit's become something else. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's tools and there's so many things now to help you.
And I would say on the flip side of that same token, just because you're good at drawing doesn't mean you don't need to learn the rules. Like, say you're great, you know, at graffiti or whatever.
You should learn as much about graffiti as possible. You should learn as much of anything that you love. You know what I'm saying?
You know, there's people that do pieces and they leave half of the piece that was there showing. You know, like they don't respect the buff.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm saying, young kids just don't know that.
Yeah, that's
you know, they
facts,
just don't know that that's disrespectful.
But they still learning. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. You know, you can't really cut someone's throat when they're in the process of still learning. You know, everybody learns at different paces.
No doubt.
That's how I feel about my artwork. Like, people are like, yo, that piece was dope. And I'm like, yeah, but that's fucked up. I should have fixed that. That color doesn't work with that color. I can always pick my shit apart and be like, yeah, that's not. And again, when people...
You are your own worst critic.
Exactly, yeah.
Aren't
I mean,
we
that's
all?
for life, you know what I'm saying?
We all?
Yeah, that's for life, you know?
Oh, my God. Well, this was a great interview.
No doubt, man. My pleasure, man.
I am very appreciative that you did it,
No,
man.
for sure.
And tomorrow we're gonna get up.
Yeah.
You're gonna display some skills, and this will be the bed under that, you know. And,
yeah, for sure.
Oh my God, I'm so souped up. Thank you so much, dude,
pleasure,
for
man.
taking the time, man.
For sure, man.
And thank you for the fancy coffee.
You're welcome,
Fancy feast. I love it. All right, I'm punching out with this 5% that's left.